Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and welcome to a very special, technically problem-laden edition of the Level Up Hour here with Chris Short and Langdon White. Apologies for all the technical issues this morning. We hope that they are figured out.
We all cross our fingers.
Yes. I'm trying to double check that I can actually hear us. Yes. Okay, cool. So we are good now.
Alrighty.
Sorry, Langdon, for busting your show up for 8 minutes, but this is the special edition KubeCon show, and we're going to be talking about many things today: containers, why you want them, and
Why they're so tasty.
why they're so tasty, and why people use them as buildings sometimes. No, I'm kidding.
Yes, exactly. I do like that. Well, let's back up for a second. This is Chris Short. I'm Langdon White,
Yes.
and we are technical marketing in basically the cloud platforms area. So we kind of do all the cloudy stuff. But I have a special interest in RHEL. So we like to talk to you in this show about why containers might be useful for you and why you might want to use them. And so the one thing I immediately thought of when you said containers for buildings was, have you seen I think it's Google does they swap a container when they want to do a rack change.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like amazing. So you just take a whole container full of racks and pull the whole thing out and put in a new one.
So I worked for a data center company in the Raleigh area before I moved up here, and they built a data center in the Research Triangle, and everything was modular. And when I say modular, I mean literally the generators, like the transformers, the AC units, everything sat either in a container or like on a flatbed kind of truck kind of deal. So you literally would just you have two of these things, and if one broke, you'd call the company and they would pull that one out and bring you a new one kind of deal. And it was just
That's amazing.
That's amazing, right?
Yeah,
like
that is truly.
Transformers coming in, AC coming in, like all the switching equipment, the whole 9 yards, right? Like it was literally like AWS in multiple just like flatbeds and containers. It was
Right,
crazy.
right. Yeah. I think it's really cool. Although I usually use now in my talks, whenever we talk about containers, I actually have a number of pictures of flower pots because I like that metaphor more fun for the container than the trucking container. But,
Yes.
because I like flower pots and flowers. So, you know how it is. All right, so let me hit the slides.
Yes.
Because everyone loves slides. And they should be showing up any second now.
They are.
And then, so as we established, this is the Level Up Hour. We had a brief hiatus for some technical challenges. That's the problem with being the first show of the day.
I think that's more the problem of, like just leaving a Linux box on, but the software maybe needs a kick in the head.
Right, exactly. So as previously established, I'm Langdon White. This is Chris Short. You can follow us on Twitter. I'm Langdon with a 1, and Chris is Chris Short. And join us on our Discord. And are we getting restreaming now through Discord again? I think I just saw it.
I think so. It's very finicky. There's some like Discord is making changes. Like I know changes are afoot at Discord engineering wise. So the API changes, and then I think Restream has to like pick up something and then change something on their end. So it connects and reconnects day to day. It's kind of weird. So yeah.
I hear it. Well, at least it was live during our technical challenges, so I could so I know it went across to all the channels. My comments just saying we were having some issues. All right. So as usual, I like to mention the show notes from last time, which are here, and I even remembered my cheat sheet this time, so I can nicely cut and paste it for you.
Oh, thank you.
And I just have a tendency to forget to make it because you can't like copy off the slide itself, right? So I always forget.
You're in like
in present mode. Yeah. All right. And so, and apparently we got some new art, or we're going to have some new art. So we'll be able to jazz this up pretty soon.
Yeah. So Langdon, for the people, our corporate overlords,
Overlords.
Red
Yeah.
Hat.
Yeah.
So like OpenShift Cloud Platforms is a business unit within Red Hat. There is a overarching marketing team at Red Hat, and we sit within the Cloud Platforms unit. But there is an overarching team that like looks at everything holistically, and they're like, "Hey, we would like to level up the Level Up show and have it on like Red Hat like normal Red Hat channels and everything." So yeah, it's pretty cool. We're working on some stuff. Hopefully in the next couple months we will hit the plus button on this guy and off it goes.
Exactly. So let's see. Show notes from last time. Today we were going to talk a bit about KubeCon, and then talk about one of our audience members actually contributed some content towards the NextCloud container. So I was thinking we could kind of review that or discuss that, and see what we see. Although I realize I should have opened my editor, which would make things a little easier to view than VI. Although I guess it's only 3 files, so we'll see.
Yeah, we'll see.
Okay, so regarding KubeCon, let me open the schedule, and that should be it. So first and foremost, we kind of are already done with a day, but the OpenShift Commons Day, or what is that thing called?
It's technically a day 0 event. So
Day 0, right.
For those not in the KubeCon know, or if this is your first KubeCon or you never heard of KubeCon before, KubeCon starts officially today, but day 0, the day before KubeCon, is when there are an enormous number of events around the greater cloud native community. And OpenShift Commons Gathering, which was airing here on the channel yesterday, was part of one of many day 0 events.
As you can see.
Yeah, as you can see here. So, but there were some cool things that happened yesterday, right? Like there's a KubeCon hallway channel in the CNCF Slack. So if you're at KubeCon this week, you need to be in the CNCF Slack. We've created a KubeCon hallway channel. We're using a thing called rabble.app this morning, but yesterday it was just like someone from VMware was like, here's my business pro account, whatever, the Zoom meeting. Let's all just join that,
Oh, that's cool.
It was pretty cool because we actually got I think when I was in there for after Commons, it was like 50, people would come and go based off talks and everything. But at one point we had like 50 people in there and it was pretty cool.
That's nice.
Yeah. So like if you have the GPU that can take it, you can see up to 49 people on screen at the same time in Zoom. So yeah, it's kind of cool, right? Like it really did bring the, hey, how's it going kind of thing.
Right.
In the hallway track, but we couldn't figure out how to have those like Zoom breakout rooms wasn't quite the right thing to like have like the pull aside conversation. So now there's this app that somebody found. I don't know who found it, but thank you to whoever made it. I already thanked you on Twitter. It's called Rabble or Ramble.app. Let me pull it. Hang on. I got to actually pull it up for a second.
Yeah, it sounds like it might end up with NSFW if we're not careful. So
yeah. So hang on.
You find it off screen first.
Yeah, got it off screen. And this is the app we're using. I won't post a specific channel. Please join the CNCF Slack through there because I'm not going to post it publicly. But that app is really cool because like it's a space where you can if you're far away from somebody, they sound far away.
Yeah, there's actually an open source version of this that the Fedora community has been using, which of course I'm blanking on the name of, but the Fedora community has a social hour every week, I think, and they have it in 2 different. They alternate time zones, so that one is kind of better for U.S. time zones and one is better for like European time zones, and sometimes they do it in a similar thing. Those 90s style video game avatars that you can see are kind of amazing, which I don't think it has, but really could use, I'm sure. But yeah, there's an open source one that it's kind of neat. The thing I had trouble with it was because we did, for one of the conferences, we did lightning talks in it. Mm-hmm. And the challenge I had a little bit was because it's 360, but only 360 in one plane. So seeing the slides in a sense is difficult because you could end up behind them. So that was a little bit weird, and I think it would get better if you like did it a bunch, but it was kind of
like, yeah, I think like this is literally just like people talking and mingling. So like there's a whole map. And like right now, Chris Short, the corgi avatar, has his corgi butt facing the camera and is quote AFK. I dropped a note behind me to say, hey, AFK on OpenShift TV right now.
Neat.
And yeah, like I'm just gonna come and go from this chat room all day, just mute and unmute it, and like it can just sit there in the background quietly, just doing whatever. And
yeah, I'm definitely going to join. I haven't. I was mostly off yesterday, so I wasn't really doing the KubeCon thing yet. But I will definitely be checking it out today. All right, so going back to KubeCon a little bit, the reason we want to talk about KubeCon for anybody who's kind of new to the containery world is so when we talk about containers, there's, and if you check out last week's episode, was it last week? Yeah, last week. But episode 14, and you can go watch the video on YouTube, and there's a link to it from the episode show notes. You can see, or you can hear us talking with a RHEL marketing technical person about when you want to orchestrate. And what we mean by that is, a container is, kind of interesting and fun on its own for certain use cases, but sometimes or often even you get to the point where you want to have a number of different containers that are actually interacting with each other to be able to provide some service. And one of the options for doing that is something called Kubernetes. And we ship a version of Kubernetes that we call OpenShift. We basically, kind of like we do with RHEL and Fedora, we kind of take Kubernetes, we do some hardening, we add a bit of feature set that's all still open source, but not necessarily directly in Kubernetes. And then we provide support and downloads and all that stuff for it. As
I mean,
like with
like
RHEL.
the best use case is that we automatically build in Prometheus, the shirt I'm wearing today. Thank you, Prometheus community. Like for monitoring and observability, right? Like you want metrics and everything. It's already in OpenShift, right? Like we take Kubernetes, OpenShift, open source project. We take Prometheus, open source project. We actually glue some bits together, build some dashboards for you, and boom. Now we do that with multiple other projects to build OpenShift. Right. So yeah, it's Kubernetes and
exactly
the trail map bits that you need. I feel like,
it's
on top of a virtualization platform now, which I'm going to be tinkering with later today. I feel like.
Cool. And I guess the other part too, right, is that it's still open source, right? So, it's not embrace and extend. It's, if you want that throwback Microsoft term, it's, it's just, as you said, Kubernetes and, so kind of going, I lost where I was. I thought I was looking at.
You want me to share my calendar or schedule or?
Well, I was gonna kind of thinking we would kind of talk about what was coming up.
Sure.
And so I will say I am a junkie for keynotes, so I'll probably go to all the keynotes.
I think I picked all but one, and the only reason I did that was to give myself a restroom break.
Right, exactly.
So what I found during keynotes during real events is that by the end I have to pee so bad.
Right.
I've learned. Pick a keynote where you can walk out and walk back in.
right. So I don't know. Keynotes tend to motivate me to really want to kind of get in bed with whatever it is that like I'm kind of seeing the conference for. I find them really upbeat and everything else. A lot of people don't find value to them because they feel like they're too marketing-esque. But maybe I just respond to that. It's kind of like the gamification in this show. Some people respond better to it than others. So that's just my little thing.
I will say that there's two keynotes I am definitely going to today because both these people are my friends. Diana Mueller from OpenShift Commons. She is doing the rise of the end users as her keynote today, and then Brianna Frank from IBM Cloud, who is also a friend of mine, not just an IBM employee. she's the director of product at IBM Cloud. She's also going to be talking about like Kubernetes everywhere and how we're extending Kubernetes like
Cool.
far beyond where we thought, Kubernetes could go to an extent, right? So yeah.
Well, that's the other thing I like about keynotes. Sometimes it depends on the keynote, but it will often give you the vision of the future, right? And one of the things when you're using software, if you can understand the philosophy behind the software, it gives you a lot of advantages to understanding like whether it's actually going to fit your use case. Because even if you look at the docs and that kind of stuff, and it tells you, oh, it does A, B, and C. If you understand its philosophy, it can help you understand whether or not it's going to actually work in the long term for you. This is why there's so many different programming languages. For example, they have different philosophies, and if the philosophy doesn't match your use case, you're often going to have a bad time, even if technically speaking you could do the thing in whatever programming language.
Yeah, in theory it works, is like the thing you will stub your toe on.
right. So moving on, so I was pointing out CLI to GitOps. I was thinking about going to this talk. It looks like you were too.
Yes, definitely.
And
Katie is a fantastic speaker. She just joined the CNCF, so I'm really looking forward to this. She was at American Express prior, and if you know American Express, they have amazingly huge data centers across the U.S. and globe, for that matter.
Yeah, a lot of times, if you can see talks by generally financial services companies in general, they tend to be very cutting edge technically for certain parts of the financial organizations, and so they're often a good place to kind of learn from. My big experience used to be with Merrill Lynch. Used to do a lot of really interesting stuff. The problem is a lot of financial services companies can't talk about what they're
right
doing.
Like it's very sensitive what they do, and they don't want to talk about their infrastructure because they're horribly concerned about getting a tax or whatever, right?
Well, and or somebody else jumping on their
competitive advantage.
Competitive advantage essentially. Because unlike many industries, your infrastructure in FS is often your competitive advantage because of speed, right? So the faster you can make a trade, the better you can do something. All right, what's the next one you would point out? I don't. There is a lot at any given time, and of course, I have like three I want to go to at any given.
Scroll back up to the top real quick. If you look like at the very top of the page,
very top.
Right there on the filter by type. If right hand side, scroll down.
Yeah,
you can actually filter by like certain things that you're interested in, and we have so many categories now in the schedule that like.
But
if
I'm
there's
interested
a use
in
case
all.
that's missing, let me know.
Right.
But as JP Dade mentioned, like the talks are getting played in the CNCF platform Entrado, which say what you want about that for an event platform. And then they're putting them on YouTube, I believe, like immediately after.
Oh, really? Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. So if I heard correctly, that is the intent. I don't know if that's actually happening because I haven't checked, to be honest with you. The intent was to make these things available sooner rather than later, as opposed to last KubeCon where we were kind of scrambling to just figure out virtual events.
Right.
We've got our like CNCF and the community in general has kind of gotten its sea legs under itself.
Although I really like Sched, one of the things they haven't quite figured out yet is in this kind of virtual conference world, right, is if you notice there's no way to look at the schedule by track. It's only by room, which is
but you can filter by type, which is kind of track.
By type? Oh, you mean here? No, I know, but you can't. So if you do this, if you do grid, you can't see. Like what I want to see is the types, right? Or the tracks,
I see what you're saying.
Because in the real world, you put one track in one room because you physically can't have two talks going on at the same time in the same place, right? But Sched hasn't quite caught up on the fact that so many events are virtual, I think.
But the good news is this time they have links from the talks to the Entrado like room directly now in Sched.
Oh, nice.
That was the chief complaint last time, and they fixed it. So thank you, CNCF, for doing or working with
Yeah, I
in Toronto to do
manually
that.
fixed that for the DevConf conference we did, where we basically went and once we had all the links, we went and embedded them in the abstracts
Yeah.
so that you could do exactly this. Because like a lot of these virtual conference platforms, they're good at streaming video, but they're not great at all the other stuff like chat, schedule, etc. So I want to use Sched, right, for my schedule. I want to use, for example, Slack, although for an open source conference we tried to use Element, which is the former Riot, etc., because they're good at that. That's what they do. All right, so anything else we should point out for today or for later this week, or what are the highlights? This is another one by a friend of mine, which is
Okay.
Urvashi. So she is a software developer contributor to the actual kind of OCI stuff.
Okay, I'm curious now. What is the container orchestrated device?
Right, I don't know either.
Container orchestrated device, is that like an IoT device? I guess maybe, I don't know. Someplace your kubelet is running, I would assume.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll have to look it up, but yeah, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
I would be remiss if I did not mention that we will be having project-specific office hours throughout the week here on OpenShift TV.
Right, good point. Yeah.
So if you go to our calendar, which I will drop in chat, you will be able to see all the fun things that we're talking about. So they wanted to have a better way than inside the platform to do kind of these office hours where people could actually like talk and chat and so forth, so on. So they picked OpenShift TV, thankfully, and yeah, Josh Barkus and I have been working on that the past couple weeks, along with Aubrey Mullock, and yeah, we've gotten, I think, all of our ducks in a row, aside from the fact that yesterday, like, this is how weird like live streaming is. Like, this is stuff I deal with, right? Like Google Calendar yesterday, Josh, he DMs me, he's like, hey, all the links to all the Zoom invites are just gone, like from the calendar. So like I go to my calendar and I open it up and I actually watch the Zoom info disappear on my screen. And it's like, how is that possible?
That'll teach you not to use Google Meet.
It's just like, how, but anyways, yeah, it's just the joys of live streaming. It's like, how did Google Calendar even manage to do that, right?
So
anyways,
related, I was just going to say, so many of the shows you might watch on OpenShift TV are not happening this week because of KubeCon, and instead are replaced with a lot of these office hours. So you should definitely come and check out the office hours. A lot of it is with actual contributors to the code base. And I tweeted about a bunch of them, at least the ones that are particularly interesting to me. To InfoSec 812, hopin.2. That's the one we actually use for DevConf. Yeah, I agree. It is quite nice. It's better than most. Still wish they would realize that they don't need to be a chat platform author. They don't need to be a schedule platform author. And if they just would integrate with the existing, like existing tools, best in class, even if they only offered one, I don't understand why you want to write your own chat platform. That's one of those things, like a package manager, that you start writing it, it looks really easy. You often write hello world and it looks like it's going to be cake. And then you get into the difficult parts, which is way harder than you think it is. Much like a package manager or a database or whatever. All right, so what else do we want to talk about? Much else, or we just I kind of want to just give an overview. There's a lot of interesting stuff going on, and lots of actual contributors to the actual code base who will be giving talks. You should definitely, that's a great way to learn, and kind of going to see what's going on there. Anything else? Oh, go ahead.
Two notes about the schedule. If you see anything that blatantly says Apple or Disney, you should go to it, because that means they somehow got corporate approval to use the name of the company in the title of the talk.
Yeah, I saw that.
Those two companies in particular are very much not in the vein of doing that. Like Disney especially, right? Like a friend of mine used to work at Disney, had to go as an independent to every KubeCon where there was a talk accepted kind of thing, right? Like had to take
Right.
PTO. This wasn't like an sanctioned thing by their former employer that was Disney. But Apple has opened up and they've got this crazy talk that is 526,600 Kate CLIs with Philip Rock and Gabby Fisher. I got word from an Apple employee this morning that that talk was done internally last week, and it was amazing. So I
Interesting.
will be watching that for sure.
Yeah, I definitely saw it. I don't know
Or at
where it
least
went
picking
though.
up the recording. It's at 4:55.
Oh,
So
okay.
it's pretty late in the day. And I'm looking at
Oh, here, this one.
this like the overarching schedule here, and that will be right immediately like starting at, well, no, actually it overlaps with the Rook office hours. So I will have to catch that.
On
No,
tape.
that, yeah, I'll have to catch that on video. No, wait. I take that back. It starts at 4. No, like this is how confusing it is. It
Oh
starts
yeah,
at 4, but then Ryan Jarvinen's talk is what I'll have to catch on tape. He's talking about emission controllers.
right. Yeah,
And
the
I
system here.
just want to know more about emission controllers.
Oh, well,
Regardless if it's
he's awesome to watch too as a
right.
speaker.
Yeah, he's an amazing speaker. So yeah,
Yeah.
he puts a lot of work into his talks.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
He's the first person I saw who was giving a virtual talk, and during his talk, he has oh, I blanked on the word, but basically he's injected crowd noise, and so he actually has like built-in laughing and clapping and
He
everything
has
else. Hilarious.
he has like one of those
A laugh track. That's what I was looking for.
Yeah, he's got a ATEM 100. I think it's like a special like sound video board kind of thing.
Oh, is that
And
how he's doing it?
yeah. So it's pretty cool the way he does his stuff. Like he's super high tech, and he runs Fedora Silverblue, which is
Yeah,
crazy, right?
yeah,
Like he does
yeah.
all this stuff on this immutable like OS kind of deal, or semi-immutable OS, however you want to call it. And it's like, how do you even manage to get that working some days?
Right. Yeah. We've talked about Silverblue on the show before. And yeah, so I definitely he is a really good speaker. So I definitely recommend him in general. It will be a tough competition between those two talks. Yeah. But I agree. If you see an actual brand name that is not coming from like a developer advocate, that's often somewhat interesting.
Yeah.
So let's see. I think you said two. Oh, you said Apple and Disney. Was there any other talks you think we should highlight, or? There's a ton of stuff.
Session. Yeah, there's an AMA with Priyanka Sharma, the general manager of CNCF, at 6:25 Eastern. It's on an external platform,
right here,
which basically means Twitch. Yeah, so Cloud Native Foundation has poked me a couple of times and picked my brain a few times more to get their Twitch channel up and running. So it's kind of cool that they're doing it on Twitch, because it gives you the same kind of experience we have here, where you can interact with the audience, and that audience is the head of CNCF, right?
Right.
Like this is basically unprecedented access because of the ability that we have with virtual events, right?
Right, exactly.
You could not have legitimate like AMA with Priyanka with 10,000 people in the room, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like you can do that with Twitch though.
Oh, one thing I want to point out. Oh, so there's this gaming talk up here, which I thought sounded fun. This one here. But interestingly, we are offering, as part of like the sideshow stuff, an arcade,
Goldie's
which
games.
I believe has all of the games are A, open source, B, I believe they're all running on OpenShift.
One is definitely running on OpenShift.
Yeah,
for sure.
But I think
but
Eric
they're all
told me
open
that
source.
Yeah, which is super cool. But I think Eric told me that all of them might be, in fact.
That would make sense.
Yeah, totally. But I thought it was kind of neat. There's some good 90s side scrollers, basically. But they're fun to play, so definitely you should check that out. But the reason I thought of that is because I was looking at some of the virtual events going on. One of the things that is difficult about doing a virtual conference is how do you do the party, right? As I experienced. So like what we did for our conference was we had a show and tell. Where I encouraged people heavily to bring a frog, but nobody did. As throwback to anyone who's our age, any book ever always mentioned that show and tell had a frog. So
frog.
There you go. I'm in a live frog, of course. But yeah, so bringing a show and tell, and that was entertaining. And JP Dade says slides. Oh, it has links to slides. Yeah, so as long as they're updated, any individual talk should have a link to the slides. Oh yeah, this nice person has done it. And the nice thing about SCED too is, as far as I can tell, it is persistent forever.
Like, but you can go pull up the 2018.
Right, totally.
Now.
And then what we did, and I'm hoping what CNCF will do, is once this has aired, this button will change to being a view on YouTube. So you can kind of still use SCED as your organizing thing, and then but then actually get to the content, and it's super handy. I don't know. I generally speaking, I can't say enough good things about SCED. It's great. It's even their app has an offline mode, which makes a lot of sense when you're physically at a conference because you never have internet access, etc.
Yeah, they let you download a PDF if you need it.
All
that fun stuff. Put it in your calendar. That'll give you a custom, like if you go through and like check the ones you want, you can download a custom ICS file. Like that's what I did. It is now a bright neon green in my calendar because it seems like the only color that was available.
Right. That was the last one. So yeah. So like I said, I just wanted to kind of talk a little bit about what we think might be interesting that's going to be happening for the conference, and actually to answer JP Dade a little bit, I will mention Red Hat Summit is coming up. There's a little bit of a change. There's going to be like, what is it, 4 of them?
3 or 4, I forget what they decided on. Like, I'd taken my mind off of it because I'm not part of the first one, so it's like, okay, I can shove that aside for now.
Right. Well, what I did want to mention is they are still strongly looking for speakers.
Yes.
And the CFP is open till the end of the month, as I recall. And if you have a story that involves one of our customers, that tends to be looked upon very favorably by the selection committee, I guess.
CFP committee, whatever you want to call them. Yeah.
Check the. Oh, how about Summit? Yeah, here we go. I was going to look for the closing date. So I think it's for this one, for the June 15 and 16.
Yeah. So the way I understand it is the first one in April is like done program wise, right? And they have all the content already like figured out, like who's doing what.
Right.
And like that was weeks ago when I heard that. So they're doing CFPs for June and everything. And sometimes in the further off, but no, JP Data did not get voluntold for Summit yet.
It doesn't usually happen until after the CFP closes that you get voluntold what you're going to be.
Yeah, exactly.
So the end of the month. So November 30th is the last day to submit proposals, and like. Speaking of Red Hat Summit, it's a big deal, and there is some training and stuff like that if you are nervous about it. So definitely, submit something especially if you have a story about when you're, especially if you have a story about kind of like a customer usage of our products. But other things may get in there as well. Like I just said, I just happen to know the selection committee tends to favor those, because marketing.
And we like our customers, right? We like to hear of people doing good things with our product. Like it's kind of nice to know that you are doing good things with the product.
And so JP Dade brings up, I can give a talk about what not to do. Sometimes those are even better.
You should totally submit that because like I can tell you that a lot of the talks that I do get accepted freely talk about failure, right?
Right.
It's like it's a missing subject in our industry. We always talk about our successes. We never talk about our failures or what went wrong, right? We only talk about the good, not the bad kind of thing. So
right.
I would welcome a what not to do talk. Yeah. And I would potentially even team up with you on that if you'd like, JP.
All right, so kind of moving on just a little bit. What I want to do is a shout out to one of our regular audience members, who I'm not sure if they're here today, is NL RHACM, which is Netherlands and some other letters, is their nick, and they kind of offline have been spending some time working on the NextCloud container problem, which I thought was super cool. And so I wanted to show it a little bit before. I'm trying to find my terminal window.
He's watching. He's on Discord.
Oh, is he? Okay, cool.
Yeah.
And sorry, let me switch to the other profile and then go to the right place.
I don't know, James. You maybe as a customer you have the most bugs in Bugzilla.
Did we did you see the resolution of I don't know who won the contest for the 2 millionth bug. There's somebody internally at Red Hat who's been working on RHEL for a long time, who for the millionth bug held a contest for predicting the closest date and time to when the millionth bug would be filed.
Wow.
And then scarily enough, in my time at Red Hat, he is now doing a contest for the 2 millionth bug. Yeah.
It's not a bad thing if we're fixing them.
Yeah. As anybody who has worked with Red Hat before and filed bugs, the most hated comment on your bug is, bug has been closed because, we have gone on to next version. Not because it's fixed, but because we've gone on to next version. So yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Has anybody in the audience had that experience? I kind of figured they have. Not.
I mean, maybe JP or James has, but
it's a sad day.
Yeah, no, closed won't fix on GitHub is
exactly
my least favorite. And Bugzilla though is definitely version no longer supported.
right. Let's see.
Yes, recognizable from NLH ACM. Yeah.
All right.
You got your container there fired up, ready to go, buddy? Or
it's getting there. Okay. So you should be able to see that. I was trying to figure out the best way to kind of make it so it's visible. But let's see. Is that legible?
To me, it is. Audience, let me know.
Yes. So what I wanted to point out was a few things. So very nicely pulled from UBI8. I can't even speak. So that's our kind of small, minimal kind of RHEL container that is available, and you can also do redistribution with it. Mm-hmm. However, if you use it from a registered Red Hat machine, it will have access to all of the repositories that your subscription allows you to have access to. So if you notice this line here, this line, I guess, you will see these two calls from MariaDB. And
UBI minimal provides nothing, right?
Is there UBI minimal?
I don't know. I think there is. But it's like
there's a Fedora minimal, I know that, but
no, there is a UBI minimal. I'm trying to figure out what is a stripped down image is what it says, obviously, but what is stripped down?
And how is it minimal? Is it minimal?
It only has 103 packages installed. So
wow,
that is very few.
That is minimal.
It has Bash.
Oh, there it goes.
It has Brotli. That's interesting. Curl is in there. That's good. Awk. That's always good. glibc is good.
Yeah, kind of.
GNU utils. I mean, it's got it's very minimal.
Right.
I'm looking at these and I'm like, dang, this is like core, and that's it.
Well, so this is actually, I think, a really interesting thing. So there is a big push in the industry for these minimal containers, right, or minimal base images to make your containers on.
Right.
For a few reasons, right? One, theoretically minimizes your attack surface because you have less software that could have bugs that could provide security flaws. Also, it's easier to ship around, etc. Generally speaking, I don't hold a lot of truck with this that smaller is better, except for some of the aspects of the security components. But what I think has been really interesting is in the effort in the kind of Fedora RHEL community to make smaller and smaller base images is, it's probably been a good exercise. So for years, Fedora has actually had a really hard time because there are 2.5 crypto libraries that are required for boot. And notice I say 2.5, right?
Where'd the half come from?
Because somebody in a prior minimization attempt got rid of half of one of the crypto libraries, but couldn't get rid of it completely.
Okay.
So that effort, like there's, we actually had an intern who spent a bunch of time kind of evaluating all the bits inside kind of a base image container and whether they were strictly necessary, and came up with this really great set of recommendations. The problem is, even the 2.5 crypto libraries example, it's really difficult to get rid of because all of the open source world, we're not dictating to them what crypto library they use, right?
No.
So how do you either convince the upstream to switch to this crypto library from that one, and how do you even know which one to tell them to use, right?
Right.
So it's been like, it's both an interesting exercise, but also grossly understandable about why that has been such a big deal. Where you kind of take the flip side, right? This is kind of where you get the what do you call it? Like, when you're building something new, it's in some ways a lot easier than retrofitting something that's been around for a while. And so you take something like Alpine, which is ridiculously small because they just built it from scratch, right?
Right.
It has no legacy to support.
Yeah.
So it's like I said, I think it's been a really interesting exercise, and it continues. And so you see things like UBI 8 minimal, but then Fedora also has a minimal. What I would be curious about is this the link to the description of?
Yes, that's all the packages and tabs.
I don't know if I have I thought I had a browser window open up here. Oh yeah. So what I wanted to look at is, for example, so they don't even include Yum or DNF, right? They include micro DNF.
That's right. That is a huge difference. Yeah.
Which the same guy who wrote RPMOS got frustrated one day and decided to write his own version of DNF that is just C. And the thing is that when they rebuilt Yum into DNF, they actually made it into a C library, or I think it's a C library, it might be C++, but C library, the vast majority of the package management components, so that other things could wrap it. So like DNF now wraps that library, so does package kit, so do a bunch of other things. So you can do something like micro DNF, and it's still in line with our package managers in general.
Yeah.
But the syntax is different. For one thing, you don't have to pass -y when you want to install something.
It just does it.
It just does it.
It assumes that if you're hitting micro DNF, install something that you really mean to install it.
And the other one that I think is interesting is there's no remove. You can't uninstall.
Yeah.
So
because the idea is you start a new container and you go from there.
Exactly. So the library I was talking about, that's what this is, this libdnf, and then microdnf is a minimalistic wrapper around it. All right. So
to be honest with you, I like the premise of microdnf. It just doesn't have all the things I would want long term, right? Like,
well, in a sense, the reason
needs the full blown DNF.
Well, the reason DNF is designed the way it's designed, or some of the reasons why it's designed the way it's designed, is because of that legacy component. Is that we really didn't want to break all of our customer scripts. So it is 99.9% compatible with Yum from RHEL 7. So, while still trying to introduce new features. So you have,
quite the balance.
Exactly. I mean, that was the whole thing behind modularity as well. but I think we actually did a pretty good job. So micro DNF can kind of take a different approach. There's no intent to support anyone's previous scripts. It either just, you're just going to go use it or you're not. So yeah, so I just think that's interesting. So the reason I brought all that up is because if you try to run the build of this on something that is not a registered RHEL machine, it will fail because MariaDB is not in the default UBI repositories. So a couple more things. So, adds in the NextCloud conf file, which makes sense to me, right? And then adds in basically a shell script to kind of launch it, where we have, and if you're here, NLHACM, I got to figure out how to just say that. I don't know. I'll figure it out someday. I don't actually have this file. So I can't completely run it. But what I wanted to point out was we can do this. And it should still work just fine, because what I was super impressed by is they went and built run labels and an init label, which I thought was pretty amazing.
Well, that's only because you've talked about it so highly on this show.
I'm a junkie, right? All right?
I know you are. I know you love it, but I love the fact that I'll call them Netherlands hack 'em.
Yeah, there you go. I like it. Netherlands hack 'em.
I love the fact that they're built in, though. I really do.
Yeah. So I was playing around with it, and assuming I'm on the correct machine.
By the way, we do have a hard stop today.
Oh, okay. All right. Yeah. Oh, and we have to do points.
Welcome back from PTO. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so I just built it and I called it Netherlands hack 'em. And what we can do is, let's just see if it's, oh boy. I cannot type today. Actually, can I type any day? So what I want to show off is, look at that. We actually have a nice run label, and when we do -- display, it prints it out and tells us what it would try to do. So it's going to mount, this local home directory, root directory into this place inside the container, and then MariaDB
handles all the SE Linux. Very nice. Very nice.
Yeah, exactly. So I thought that was pretty slick. And then, which we never really talked about, is you can have other labels that are, like I said, I'm not in love with the term. I've said this before. I'm not in love with the term run label, because it's not just run labels, but you can also have this init label, for example, and it will, it's meant to be, how do I initialize this container? But as you can see, it works exactly the same way as the run label and the init label.
Nice.
What I was trying to figure out is, I'm pretty sure, or I imagine there's a command somehow to get this label out, but I don't know of one off the top, or I couldn't find one off the top of my head until, without doing a full-on inspect where you get the whole gamut.
Oh, yeah.
So
wouldn't it be describe? Can you do describe? Podman describe?
Is it describe, you think?
Is there a describe?
Oh my goodness. I don't think so.
No. Okay, never mind.
Yeah.
Sorry.
There's it's whichever one it is, inspector info. I can never remember which is which. I think it's inspect, which will show you the whole block. But I don't know a nice way like this to kind of say, just show me the description label.
Right.
But yeah. All right. So, let me show you quickly this. So the problem, because if you remember from our last episode,
Netherlands hackers put some stuff in chat.
Oh, cool.
About how to fix some things. So yeah. Go ahead.
Oh, okay. Got it. So yeah. So what they had done with this script here is basically just tear out a bunch of stuff from the default MySQL secure installation to make it a little bit easier. But as they say in the chat, it'll actually just run if you use the one that's shipped directly in this package. So we could try that at some point, but I wanted to touch briefly here on. So we have this problem where we want to run sbin init because we want systemd to manage the bringing up of our our web server and our database, but at the same time we need to run some initialization stuff. And so the way they approached solving that problem was this init container, or this init, init container.sh, right? So that as it says actually in the nice header here, set the correct web and database ownership, start the MariaDB service, etc. And so once I have formal permission from Netherlands ACM, I will actually post this in the repo. But right now I don't have license to do so without them telling us officially they can.
Or putting a license file with the repo.
Well, there's one in the episodes repo, but I want to make sure that if I put this content there, that's acceptable. Okay. So whatever, I'm sure it'll be fine, but I always like to follow the goods and pieces. There we go.
Look at formal permission granted. How would you like it licensed? What do you license it as?
What do I have it as? I think it's MIT.
Yeah.
It could be Apache though.
Oh, Apache too?
Oh no, it's Share-alike.
So
because so this is kind of interesting. So this is one of the problems you run into with having documents in
code together.
Right,
yeah,
is that the two different types of licenses don't both work. All right, so long story short, let's do some points.
Woohoo! Whoa, Narendev, look at you, buddy.
Yeah, so I was pretty impressed.
I actually got to talk to him yesterday a lot, so that was pretty cool.
That was cool. And so I rewrote my little calculation script, so theoretically it's correct. But if you think there's an error, let me know. So if you want points from today's show, there it is in the sidebar or in the chat. So Narendev has caught up to Noah Friction.
Good job.
And then, but we still have Joe Fuzz and Netherlands Hackham in the running. And then Jay Walter and Sausage Crumbs. We actually have a many-way tie for 300 points. So I pulled the top, I kind of pulled the top two that I remember seeing the names kind of go by. But you can always get points by joining our Discord. You can get points by a bunch of other things, which is in the activities file on the GitHub repo. So, check it out. But yeah, I'm super impressed with, I think, 1600 is pretty close to the maximum number of points available at the moment. However, if you file issues or pull requests against the repo, that will get you points as well, and no one has done that yet. So if anybody wanted to pull away, or
why doesn't NL hack
frog?
Just tell them where to put the PR, and
that's kind of what I was thinking. And then we could do some. Oops, I didn't.
And if you're not familiar with Git, hit me up. I will teach you all about it. Right?
Yes,
I will get you your first PR in today. No problem.
Right. Well, maybe not today, but soon.
Well, yes. Between whenevers. Yeah.
Right.
All right.
And so let's call it a show, because it is now 10 a.m. Eastern,
and we have to go to a wonderful company meeting. Oh my
gosh.
And I'm getting a public safety alert. Okay.
Hopefully it's just weather.
No, we're on lockdown again.
Oh.
Officially, yeah. I mean, we as a family locked down on Friday, but the state is now in a state of lockdown.
Understand.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. All right.
So stay healthy, everybody.
Yeah, stay safe out there, everyone. Appreciate it. And we are out. Thank you all.
Thanks, man.